Out on the calm Caribbean Sea, a family enjoys a perfect vacation aboard their yacht. Laughter fills the air as Julia, the mother, dives in for a swim. The water feels peaceful, until a strange sensation brushes past her leg. She glances around. Nothing. Probably just her imagination. But then it happens again. Stronger this time. Her heart races as she swims back toward the yacht, until something grabs her. Panic takes over, and she screams for help. But no one hears. Cassie's lost in her music, and Tom and Ben are busy fishing. Moments later, Tom realizes Julia's gone. He spots her struggling and dives in without hesitation. Fighting the waves, he pulls her back to safety. Soaked and shaken, Julia insists it was just a current. But the fear in her eyes says otherwise. That night, they celebrate Ben's birthday, trying to forget. Cassie steps out to video call her boyfriend, but the signal cuts out as storm clouds loom over the city. When she rushes back inside, Tom blames it on distance from land. Then, a low rumble. The family rushes out to see a pod of whales drifting by. Tom explains how storms confuse their sense of direction. But before anyone can breathe, the yacht jolts violently. Ben tumbles to the floor. Fearing damage, Tom dives in to check. Minutes later, he resurfaces, bleeding. Julia rushes to stitch him up as he whispers that something was down there, right behind him. Whatever was out there with Tom was massive, but invisible beneath the dark water. When he finally inspected the damage, the yacht's hull was torn apart. They needed help. Fast. Julia kept calling through the radio while Cassie searched for any phone signal, but nothing worked. Then a sudden scream, only to find it's Ben playing around with a mask. Moments later, the yacht dies completely, stranded in the endless blue. Julia catches a faint voice on the radio, but it's all static. Tom estimates they have enough food and water for 4 days. After that, they'll need a miracle. Then, the radar beeps. Something's approaching. The family rushes outside, just in time to see fiery streaks raining across the sky. Meteorites, or so they think. One crashes into the ocean nearby, shaking the waves. Tom forces the yacht forward, but another explosion knocks them off balance. Flames light up the night, and Tom realizes the truth. Those aren't meteorites. They're satellites falling from orbit. Smoke rises from the yacht. The engine's gone. The wind grows violent as the compass spins out of control. The storm hits hard, windows shatter, waves crash. Julia's nose starts bleeding, Cassie gets sick, and Tom's desperate to keep them alive. A flare lights up the chaos, then silence. By morning, the sea is gone. The yacht rests tilted on cracked earth. The ocean vanished. In every direction, nothing but desert. Shock turns to disbelief as they step out. Cassie searches for a signal. Nothing. Ben plays with dead crabs, the last trace of what used to be the sea. Tom checks the compass again. The poles have reversed. Something that hasn't happened in hundreds of thousands of years. Cassie breaks down, convinced her boyfriend is dead. Julia tries to comfort her, but grief pushes them apart. As Tom and Julia gather supplies, Ben ties his birthday balloons to a rock, hoping anyone will see. Then a miracle. A voice crackles through the radio. It's Now, captain of a stranded submarine. He confirms it. The magnetic poles flipped, pulling oceans inland and drowning the continents. Most of humanity is gone, but there's hope. The poles may shift again within a week, bringing the seas back with violent force. Now warns them to climb as high as possible. His sub has room for 3 people, and with that the signal fades, leaving the family with an impossible choice. Julia and Tom beg the submarine captain to save their kids. He agrees, giving them his coordinates. Tom estimates it'll take 2, maybe 3 days to reach him. That night, he tells his family to rest. Tomorrow, they walk. At dawn, as they pack, Tom spots movement on the horizon, a limping man with a harpoon and a barking dog. Hoping for help, Tom offers him water. But the man says nothing, then smashes the bottle across Tom's face. Julia screams as the stranger stabs Tom through the stomach. One final twitch, and he's gone. Julia runs for her life, blood pouring from her shoulder as the man throws his harpoon again. She locks herself and the kids inside the yacht, hiding them beneath the sofa and handing them the flare gun. With trembling hands, she grabs a knife and hides in the bathroom. The man breaks in, searching room to room, stealing food. Julia crawls through a hole to escape, but the dog spots her and attacks. In tears, she's forced to kill it. The man finds the body and breaks down in rage, giving Julia time to climb back aboard. But he catches her again. A brutal struggle erupts. Punches, kicks, screams. He slams her face to the floor and starts choking her. Then a flare erupts. Cassie, shaking, had fired it straight into his chest. Flames spread fast. Julia grabs the map and supplies, then runs to her children. Together they cling to Tom's body one last time before the yacht explodes behind them. Hours later, they stop at a waterfall to rest. Cassie blames the balloons for leading the madman to them, but Julia comforts her. None of this was Ben's fault. They press on, exhausted and hunted. They reach a small pond and spot a dead hammerhead shark, half buried in sand. That's when Julia sees him again, the same limping shadow in the distance. The family runs, weaving past pools of toxic waste and stranded sea creatures, until silence returns. But when they finally stop, Ben's lips are cracked and pale. Julia checks the bottle, almost empty. Cassie admits she didn't close it tight. Julia lashes out, her fear spilling over into anger. Cassie snaps back, tears in her eyes. "It doesn't matter, Mom. We're not going to survive this anyway." After a long, heated argument, the family walks on in silence. The sun burns above them until they spot a crashed plane half buried in sand. Something moves, just birds. Exhausted, they decide to spend the night inside. As they share a small meal, Julia finds an old photo in Tom's jacket, their family, smiling under brighter skies. Cassie softly asks how her parents met. Julia smiles through tears, remembering the hospital where Tom was her patient, how he showed up every day with flowers and a poem that stole her heart. Later that night, Cassie slips outside for a moment, only to be grabbed from behind. The limping man. But before he can attack, Julia appears, fueled by pure rage and grief. She stabs him again and again until Cassie has to hold her, whispering for her to stop. By morning, his corpse is covered in bites. Small, swarming marks. Something else is alive out there. After they leave, crabs crawl out of his mouth. Hours later, while Julia checks the map, Ben runs ahead and dunks his face into a pond. Julia pulls him back, shouting that the water could be poison. The heat grows unbearable. They find a pile of old chairs and build a makeshift shelter. Julia injects Ben with medicine to help him rest. Before dawn, a faint scratching wakes her. She steps outside and freezes. A swarm of crabs is advancing, a moving tide of claws. Julia rushes back, waking the kids, and they run for their lives. They spot a giant cargo ship grounded in the desert. 3 surviving crew members appear. One woman wants to help, but the others lock themselves inside a container, leaving the family out in the open. The crabs are almost there. Julia lifts the kids onto the container first, but as she climbs, claws dig into her leg. The pain is unbearable. The siblings pull her up just as the swarm floods inside through a hole. Gunfire erupts, but it's useless. The crabs devour the crew within seconds. Later, bleeding and exhausted, Julia bandages her wounds before passing out. When she wakes, a sandstorm rages. The world is orange and violent. Her children are gone. Panicked, she grabs a fallen gun and searches. Screaming their names, Cassie appears, gasping, explaining they went looking for help but found no one. Together, they find Ben sheltering in an open container. Inside, Julia uses Tom's lighter to cauterize her wounds. The pain is blinding, but she doesn't stop. When the storm finally clears, the family steps out to find dozens of water bottles in a nearby container. A small miracle in the wasteland. Among the wreckage, Julia checks the bodies and finds a radio and a gun. She calls now, voice trembling, to say she's lost the map. On the other end, his tone is weak. He's been attacked by arthropods, creatures from the deep that have gone mad from oxygen exposure. He warns them to hurry. The ocean is returning faster than expected. Hours, maybe less. Then he fires a flare into the distance, their last beacon of hope. After a long, grueling walk, they spot a broken toilet where Ben stops to relieve himself, trying to feel normal for just a moment. Ahead, the submarine, finally in sight. But between them and safety lies a massive rock formation. As they climb, the ground trembles. Rocks collapse. Julia shoves her kids to safety, trapped behind a wall of debris. She begs them to keep going, but Cassie refuses to leave. The shouting turns desperate until Julia promises she'll find them again. With tears streaming, Cassie pulls Ben away. The siblings reach the submarine and find Now barely alive. Bleeding, he tells them to take the vessel. His time is over. Realizing there's room for one more, Cassie turns and runs back for her mother. Julia, surrounded by the swarm, opens fire. The arthropods close in, Yana snapping, hissing. Cassie appears above the rocks, hand outstretched. Julia climbs with everything she has left. Cassie pulls her up and together they sprint toward the sub. Ben fires from the top to distract the swarm as Julia and Cassie climb aboard. The creatures reach Now's body and devour it, buying them seconds. Julia grabs the gun, fires until it's empty, then tosses it and seals the hatch. The family watches in silence as the creatures surround them, when suddenly a roar rises in the distance. The ocean is coming back. They strap in, hands locked together as towering waves crash over the submarine. The impact sends them tumbling. Julia sees flashes of everything they've lost. Tom, the yacht, the storm. Cassie throws up. Ben screams. Then, blackness. When they wake, the silence is unreal. Julia opens the hatch, and sunlight floods in. The submarine rests in the ruins of a drowned city, the world reborn beneath rising tides. For the first time in forever, they smile. There's still hope to rebuild. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for more stories like this. Thanks for watching.